Welcome to the Brand Lincoln Podcast, the show where we dig into the stories behind Lincoln's most inspiring business owners and influential people. It's where big ideas and even bigger personalities collide. Proudly sponsored by Perch Merch, your one-stop shop for screen printing, embroidery, and promotional products that make your brand unforgettable. Call us at 402-217-5212 or visit us at perch-merch.com to give your business the glow-up it deserves. And don't just listen, be a true multitasker. Like, follow, and subscribe on whatever platform you're tuning in on. And check us out on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Brand Lincoln Podcast. We're basically everywhere you waste your time. Let's get inspired, Lincoln. The stories start now. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Brand Lincoln. I am your host, Chris Beecham, joined by my co-host, Henry Schmidt.
Good morning, Chris.
And Joe Cruz.
Hello, everyone.
So today in the Perch Merch studio, we have Joel Green of Robbers Cave, which is located at 925 Robbers Street?
Robbers Cave Road.
Robbers Cave Road.
I knew it had to be a road.
So I've lived in Lincoln my entire life, and I just went there for the first time a couple months ago, and Sam, one of the owners, gave me a personal tour, and I cannot believe that I had never been there in my entire life, and I've lived in Lincoln my entire life.
Chris, I picture you as one of those guys sneaking in high school and writing.
No, I was telling him before the show it was like a plumber's storage area back then, and so it was all locked up, but people would still.
I remember hearing stories when I was in high school that you could sneak in, drink some beers, but I had no idea where it was, and I was a goody-goody, so I wasn't going to do that, but it sounded really cool.
That's actually how I begin the tour. Once I get everybody down by the entrance, I have to explain to them. I say, I think thousands of people drive by every day and never think twice why this is called Robbers Cave Road. Most of the visitors are from other countries and other states.
No kidding?
Yeah, because it's number one on TripAdvisor, number one on Yelp, and 99% 5 stars. So your phone will recommend it for you when you get in the area. And so sometimes I get locals, and they say exactly that. Boy, I grew up 3 blocks from here. I haven't ever heard of this. I go, easy. You hung out with a respectable crew.
You were a good kid.
Well, let's hear the history of it. One, how did you get involved in this?
I first learned about the cave when I was a little dude. My aunt gave me this little yellow book. It's called Guide to the Ghosts of Lincoln.
Yes.
And it described...
I think I had that, but it was like a yellow cover.
Yeah, there's several different versions of it.
Yeah.
Well, the first one came out in the early 80s, and it would describe all of Lincoln's folklore. Bloody Mary's house,
Hobbitsville,
Yep.
Robbers
Cave. I
Cave.
did sneak into Hobbitsville multiple times.
You guys been to Hobbitsville?
Yeah, I have.
You guys are talking a whole different era
Oh,
here.
my gosh.
Yeah.
I don't know what
I'm
any of that
actually
stuff is.
friends with the owners there now.
Okay.
And,
I was there a couple of times, but the best visit to Hobbitsville was senior prom Lincoln High.
is that right?
We ended up at Hobbitsville somehow.
How many?
How many what?
How many people ended up there?
Just a carload.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was our problem. We'd show up with too many people.
Yeah, that place was scary. You know?
Was.
Yeah, because they'd bang on the windows and you'd run off. Or a long time ago, I think they'd shoot salt pellets at you.
I remember the stories or whatever. I'd never happened to me, and I was in there probably a dozen times. But yeah.
Yeah. It's
Gardner
the same.
will come out and shoot at you.
That's it, yeah. It's the same type of deal. Robbers Cave always kind of had that mystique to it.
Uh-huh.
Now, I went out there all the time and just looked at that white door, and that was kind of the progenesis of when I wrote the book, because I'm like, what's this white door? Why is it there? Who made it? And why isn't it open? I know this is one of the coolest places in Nebraska, but it was just a lot of people dismissed it as a hole in the ground where college kids drank. I'm like, there's a lot more to it than that. You know what I mean? So way back in 2005, I started researching it, all the newspaper stuff, all the old photos, and there wasn't very much. And my wife was in college at the time, and she was taking a place-conscious writing class, and she was going to do a project on Robbers Cave, and I basically just offered to do the whole thing for her. And luckily, I started it, but I went to college, graduated, used to work for the NBA for a little bit, 76ers, Cleveland Cavaliers after that. But when I came back to Nebraska, when I get into something, I like really get into it almost obsessively. I want to learn all about it. And that's when I decided to finish the book on Robber's Cave. So luckily, the old owner, it was in the Scarborough family for generations. They're the ones that had the house right back behind the subway where you worked.
No, yeah.
Now, that was raised in like 89, 90 because of vandalism and things. But luckily, the last of the Scarboroughs, he was still alive. And his dad was a warden at the men's reformatory, and he still lived over by the pen. And I tracked him down. This is back when phone books were around. Got his number right out of the phone book. I had to call him up, warm up to him a little bit because he's a pretty rough old dude. And eventually, I talked him into coming over to the cave. This is when there was a restaurant there, and we talked for about an hour and a half. We had an emerald historian with us named Dale Knobman, and he used to go to the cave in the 50s as like school field trips. And he is the guy that wrote the foreword for my book, and so he just sat with me and wanted to listen to Ed because he was the last of the line.
Yeah.
And that's where I got most of my photos, family scrapbooks from him. He gave me access to the Scarborough family scrapbooks. I recorded all of our interviews, hours of them. And eventually I was going out to his house and just sitting with him and hitting, voice memos. And I would put the phone down. And I had to drink Old Milwaukee with him all the time. This guy lived off of 2 products.
Yeah.
He ate Skippy peanut butter straight from the jar. That was it for food. He drank Old Milwaukee all day. We're talking breakfast to nightcap.
What a beast.
92.
What a beast.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
wait till you see a picture of him. You'll have to flip through a book sometime. But yeah, and I would just ask him all these questions, and that's how I found out most of the stuff about the cave. And then the flood came after the restaurant and the brewers were evicted 6 years ago. And Mr. Manzito said, "Your tours are really popular. Keep it going." And it was just, I didn't have to tell you about how great the beer was for 45 minutes. It was just the whole hour in the cave with me walking you around, telling you stories, showing you pictures. And the tours went from about 200 a year to like 500, 700, 1,200. I mean, it just skyrocketed.
Wow.
And it hasn't slowed down yet.
So how many tours are you currently doing daily or yearly now?
January and February are the slow months because everybody assumes it's closed, even though it's not, because it's 50 degrees down there year round. It's called ambient temp. So tours are year round, 7 days a week. The spike really comes in the summertime, May, June, July, August. But apparently that's the busy month for all cave visits.
Cooler,
it's got
it's
it.
cooler
That's
down
cave
there.
season.
Free
Yeah.
AC. Yeah, and the most I'd ever done in a day is 13.
13
to-
separate tours?
Yeah. Yep.
How long is a tour?
An hour.
Oh boy.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
So on the weekends, in the summertime, you can book a tour anytime from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. So for me to do stuff like this, when I leave, I'm going to have a whole row of voicemails that I got to get back to because the tours book several weeks out.
Incredible.
Yeah, and there's even tours booked in 2026 already.
Holy smokes.
And it's because of the corporate events, the weddings, the graduations, the senior bus tours, the school field trips. And in the summertime, the bus loads of kids from like Omaha, Bellevue, Gretna, Papillion, they come by the busload to cool them off. They show up, in swim trunks and flip-flops, and half of them play at Van Dorn Park. I take 30 of them through the cave, and then we flip-flop.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So, but your initial question was, how did I get into it? It all just started off as I tell people I wrote the book out of sheer frustration. I knew what a cool place that was, and I knew how unique it was. And when there was a restaurant and a brewery there wasn't one photo of the cave on the wall. You could walk into that restaurant, and it almost like they treated the cave like a nuisance.
Huh.
And I would go to their meetings and things like that because my little sister was their like trainer and event coordinator and things. And she's like, you guys want to give tours of the cave? They had some of the brewers kind of walking people through. And she's like, my brother knows all about it. So that's when I started getting given tours of the cave. But I think most of the partners and investors at the restaurant, they thought anybody that ever wanted to go see that cave would go see it, and then it would just die off. Like that's what they were thinking. And I thought to myself, well, you forgot about the rest of the world.
Yeah, so they thought just Lincolnites.
Yeah.
It's a one-time deal.
One time, been there, done that.
And it turns out it's the opposite.
Well, you can't really blame them because, like I said, nobody really knew all that much about it. They dismissed it as a hole in the ground. So I had the geological historian, the speleological historian from Wisconsin, the hydrologist from Minnesota. They came and took one look at that cave, and they're like, this doesn't exist anymore. It's ex-commercial urban show cave. They're all gone. They got
Ex-commercial
freeways
urban
through
show
them.
cave.
Yeah, they got freeways through them, roads past them.
Yeah.
They're sealed off. They're caved in. You guys ever go to the Twin Cities, Minnesota?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Underneath the Twin Cities is St. Peter's sandstone, and there's miles of old mushroom and brew caves, similar to Robber's Cave. And people sneak down there every year. Somebody always dies because they light a fire. They get carbon monoxide poisoning. They don't realize the old brewery shafts aren't open anymore. They used to have giant, like, movie set quality haunted houses down there in the 80s and 90s underneath the Twin Cities. But that would be the closest thing that's kind of similar to that, because all of the other ones, they're just gone or they're sealed off because it's really soft Dakota sandstone.
Yeah, it is different down there.
It's not like most caves. Usually when you go to a cave, what do you guys think? America's got a lot of caves. What state would you say has the most?
Utah.
Colorado.
Yeah, I was going to guess Utah too.
Yeah.
Nice.
Utah?
No, Colorado?
Colorado, yeah.
Colorado?
Hell, California.
It's actually in the southeast. Tennessee.
Really?
Nope.
That's my second guess.
Tennessee's got over 10,000 of them.
Huh.
Yeah. And number 2, I believe, is Missouri. They got 7,300 mapped and recorded caves, and that's why they call it the cave state. But usually when you go to a cave, it's limestone. You know, it's wet and it's drippy. They're teaching you about stalactites,
Yeah, yeah.
stalagmites. And, you know, Robber's Cave, totally different. That sucker is all sand.
Is that because is it man-made? Or
Both.
Okay.
Man-made and natural.
Let's get into that. Like, how did this... Do we know when? Do we know how?
Yeah, well, 90 million years ago. If
Okay.
you believe in
If there's
those
a guy
numbers.
that knows, it's this guy right here.
Yeah. Cretaceous period is what the state geologist says, is when all this sand got kind of deposited here. This whole area was covered in a shallow saltwater sea. And I grew up right over here off of West R Street, close to Capitol Beach Lake a little bit. Mm-hmm. And that's actually saltwater. Did you know that?
I did not.
Yeah, it's mostly filled through Oak Creek, you know, by creek water, but the salt water comes up from the bottom. That lake over there was a saltwater bathing amusement park.
Yeah.
All the way to the 60s.
I knew it was a huge amusement park. And
Yeah. Did you guys know that?
No idea.
Oh, yeah.
That was
Google
going to be
That
was
is
going to
in-
be my second book, but the Robbers Cave thing took off. I started a book on Capitol Beach and had to shelve it.
Huh.
You
Yeah.
really should, because I've gone down that rabbit hole of looking at old pictures and stuff.
Isn't that
They had
fun?
roller coasters, everything.
Capitol Beach had boxing matches, baseball games. In 1911, there was a presidential stump speech out there. They had roller coasters, a hot air balloon ascension-filled racetrack, dance hall, roller skating rink. It's like the Coney Island of the Midwest.
Yeah, no kidding.
And that's because West O Street and then the street right next to it was the Detroit, Lincoln, Denver Highway. You can still
Oh, yeah,
Says
that's
that, yeah.
those signs, yeah.
that's what those signs mean.
Yeah.
Yep. So I grew up in that area, and so all this was covered in a shallow saltwater sea at one time. And so you have outcroppings of Dakota sandstone out by Pioneers Park. That's where the Smoke Signals sculpture sits. Mm-hmm. That's a big sandstone bluff. I mean, it's kind of covered in grass now, but that's sandstone. Out in the highlands, there's a lot of sandstone. They use it for fill sand in construction. If you guys are ever over by the Children's Zoo, Antelope Creek, that's Dakota sandstone. Back in the day, people used to carve all over that and swim in the creek there. and things like that. So Dakota sandstone's very spotty, but it goes all around this area. And Robbers Cave is kind of like the eastern part of Nebraska had a little shoreline for the body of water was called the Western Interior Seaway. So when we get kids down there on field trips and things, I basically show them the ribbons of iron ore. There's ribbons of iron ore in the wall, and first of all, they freak out because of Minecraft, you know. And I'm like, get your stone pickaxe out, try to contain yourself, because they can touch real iron ore, you know what I mean?
Don't you dare say chicken jockey in front of those kids.
No, I won't do that. Lose their attention, right? But yeah, they makes these beautiful sine curve waves all through the cave. There's ribbons of iron ore in there, and I explained to them, I'm like, you're kind of walking through an old beach. And then, you know, they get really curious, and I'm just like, well, connect the dots. You know, we have Salt Creek Tiger Beetles, we have a Salt Lake, we have a Salt Dogs baseball team. Why do you think there's people out here? We don't have rivers. It's not like Omaha. You know, people have been coming out here to scrape for salt for thousands of years. Made the bison taste better
Yeah.
and last longer.
Got it.
Yeah.
So then, okay. Now, when I was down there, there's nothing but carvings of people's names. How big is it? Do you have a?
Yeah. It's 700 and 900 lineal if you count the cross tunnels.
Okay.
5,600 square feet.
Got it.
Now, there's no way to know, you know, hundreds of years ago what it looked like because the oldest photographs of it, it's pretty crazy to look at. This is back in the day when Lancaster County had like 3 trees. It's just bare. It's like a sandstone cliff with these little tunnels popping out. And it would have been used by like Native Americans or pioneers as a shelter. But it wasn't very big when it started. There's a little water-formed cavity, you know, formed by groundwater comes through a sinkhole and takes sand grains with it while it follows the least path of resistance. So it had these little natural ceilings. And then the shape that it's in today is because of one guy. And this has to do with beer. Back in the 1860s, brewers from Waukesha, Wisconsin, and Red Wing, Minnesota, they built Lincoln's first brewery right next to the cave. And they hired this big German man. His name was Jakob Andla. He lived right on Rose. He spent 4 years, real life Minecraft, 4 years, pickaxe, shovel, wheelbarrow. And in 4 years,
Cleared all out.
yeah, Uncle Jake hammered out 5,600 square feet of cave. He arched out the ceilings and he lowered the floor, and that was all lagering caverns.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a big tub in the third tunnel. There's still remnants of like the cement of where there used to be a big tub where they would soak the grain, sprout the grain. And then the lower tunnels were for lagering. Like I said, 50, 55. That's about the right temp for lagering beer.
So that's why he was digging it out, was
Yeah.
for the temperature.
Yeah.
That was
they
the lure.
used it like a big fridge because this was 1869.
Yeah, they didn't have great refrigerators.
Yeah, 1869 to 1873. Yeah, he spent 4 years.
A long time.
Yeah, and then I got a photo of the old brewery. It was called Lincoln Brewery, and then Pioneer Brewery, and then Lutz Brothers Brewery, and then South Lincoln Brewery. At one time, it was known as Pete's Brewery, and all they did, they would roll the barrels when the product was ready. They would roll it up the ramp, back where the emergency exit is now. Mm-hmm. That's where the barrels would go out. They put it on horses, and they took it to the Haymarket, where all the saloons were.
Interesting.
And there's the Capitol Preservation architect, his name's Matt Hansen. He actually tracked down a keg label from that original brewery. It says Lincoln Brewery, Ulmer and Lindner, which were the two founders. And it said 1 mile south of Market Square. So they're referencing the Haymarket,
Yeah.
and the cave's basically 1 mile south of the Haymarket. That's where you're supposed to take the
pretty good
kegs
history
back. Yeah. That would have been in the 1870s.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know that when I was there, Sam showed me one of the where somebody carved their name,
Yeah?
and it was the oldest one.
Yeah.
And tell me about what you have tried to find them, the family, or tell me when that was. What does it even say? What's the year?
The oldest one in there, there is actually the pickaxe marks from the 1860s. There's still pickaxe marks on the ceiling. But the oldest name that's carved is Sam Dalton, May 1875. And the first thing that people think of when they hear the name Sam Dalton, they think of the Dalton Gang, like the Old West or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's the first thing I looked at. There wasn't anybody named Sam. There was a Dalton Gang. They ran around with Bell Star in Oklahoma and Kansas. And they actually met their demise in Meade, Kansas. And if you want to learn about the Dalton Gang, no, I'm sorry, they met their demise in Coffeyville, Kansas. But you can learn more about them. They have a museum in Meade, Kansas. It's a barn with an escape tunnel.
Oh, more caves.
Yeah, it's like a barn, and then that's how they got out, little escape tunnel out the back. But the museum is in Meade, Kansas. They all got shot up in Coffeyville, Kansas. So whenever I hear the name Sam Dalton, I for some reason think of Patrick Swayze from Roadhouse.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Dalton.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's probably just because I was born in 82.
So why is it called Robbers Cave then? Has that always been the name?
Nope, it's had a lot of names over the years. Penitentiary Cave,
Oh,
That's
Lincoln
not as good.
Cave.
that's not as good. That didn't stick.
Penitentiary Cave because where the emergency exit is now used to be a big stone wall. And everybody thought, ooh, what's on the other side? I bet the cave goes all the way to the pen. Well, that's actually, the pen's down the street, but that would be a pretty far tunnel.
Be a long tunnel.
It makes for a good story. Totally not true. The other side of the wall, it just took you outside. You'd be looking at the elevators.
Yeah.
So it was Penitentiary Cave, it was Lincoln Cave, it was Sandstone Cave, it was Notorious Old Cave, it was Pawnee Council Cave. The oldest name I ever found for it writing the book was Original Council Cave Tunnel. And that's the original cavity, the water-formed cavity. Yep. It got the Robbers Cave nickname because after that big brewery closed, it became a brothel.
Oh.
And the month
Cave.
the month of May just ended, and all during May I do a lot of school field trips. And I'm used to watering down the lemonade for when there's young ears on the tour. So I use an old lawyer trick, okay? Whenever there's young ears on the tour, I show them a picture of the building on the iPad, and I say, this is an illegal establishment for negotiated affection. And the reason I do that, because you're not lying to them, but they don't know what you're talking about, right? No lawyer trick. You can tell I used to work in PR. Yeah. And so,
Otherwise, you don't want a call from a parent.
Yeah.
if I wanted them to know what it was, I would be like, this is a hotel where they like to cuddle. But this big 3-story wood and stone structure sat right outside of the where the emergency exit is now. Now in 1885, that was burned down by the Anti-Horse Thief League.
Anti-horse? Horse. Yep.
That was a thing. Yeah, and that's something.
Wanted to make sure.
Yeah, it sounds kind of crazy, but they were vigilantes. You got to keep in mind, back in the day, horse thievery was a hanging offense. You know, horses were like 75% of your
And it
net
should
worth.
still be a hanging offense.
Yeah. Yep. So you have to keep in mind there's no building back there anymore. It was late 1800s Nebraska. Jesse James was in the area. He lived in Rouleau, Nebraska with Zerelda. And when the tunnels started
Jesse
to be...
James lived in Nebraska?
Yeah, absolutely.
I had no idea.
Yeah, his mom was a school teacher in Decatur. His dad was a pastor. His brother married Annie Ralston in Omaha. He had his wedding pics taken in Nebraska City, and he lived in Rouleau.
Isn't Rouleau the cult town?
That's what most people know it as,
Okay.
yeah. Yep, right down by the river there.
Do you know about that, Chris?
I do not.
That's a story. That's a rabbit hole, too.
No kidding. Yeah. Yeah, Jesse
Legendary
James.
outlaw was the son of a preacher and a teacher
Yeah.
In Nebraska.
in Nebraska.
You can still go visit his, he's originally from Kearney, Missouri, the suburb of Kansas City. You can go and visit his house. It's a log cabin. At one time it was covered in siding, but they took the siding off. So now it's, back to being a log cabin.
More
And
legit.
he's buried in Mount Olivet Cemetery right there in Kearney, Missouri. But on his house, you can see there's this the back side of it's all black and burned. and that's from back when the Pinkerton Agency, which was like the FBI back in the day, they threw a bomb in his house and blew off his mom's arm and killed his little brother.
What in the world?
Yeah.
We went down a whole nother.
Yeah.
This guy's awesome.
Well, Jesse James, I mean, he's got, he's just like anybody else. He's got positive qualities and negative qualities, but that'll piss you off and make you mad at the government,
world?
won't it?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah.
All right.
But I mean, he was a guerrilla. He rode with Quantrill's Raiders, which were like Confederate sympathizers. Let's keep things the way they are in Missouri, type of thing.
What's the time? What's his life? Time
Late 1800s.
Okay.
Yep. Missouri and Nebraska. Yeah, the Jesse James gang, they met their demise in Northfield, Minnesota. They were going to rob a bank up there, but the whole town was waiting for them. Everybody got shot up, and only Frank and Jesse escaped. Yep. And Jesse James, he was going under the pseudonym Thomas Howard. You can actually read a letter at the Historical Society where he was about to buy some land in Nebraska, Franklin County, Nebraska, when it was quote unquote all said and done. He was ready to settle down and just live in Nebraska on some farmland.
Right off into the sunset.
Yeah, but what ended up happening was his friend shot him in the back of the head for the reward money. And that happened in St. Joe, Missouri. And you can visit that house too. It's kind of morbid. You can go see the bullet hole
No
in
kidding.
in the dining room. It used to be, pretty small, like a bullet hole. Now it's severely enlarged because people keep ripping chunks off of it.
Save a
Putting their
souvenir.
finger in it.
Yeah. Yep.
Touch it.
Isn't that crazy? But what he did, he just hopped up on a chair to fix a crooked picture or something, and the guy's name was Bob Ford. He was like, "Oh shoot, now's my chance." Bam. Reward money's mine.
$500, thanks.
Yeah, I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
No, Brad Pitt made a movie
Yeah,
about
Brad
that.
Pitt and Ben, the other Casey.
Casey Affleck.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Never saw it. Heard
So-
it was long.
Long
Anyway,
story
but
short,
Jason-
that's how you get
Jesse
the Robbers
James.
Cave nickname. Whether he was ever there or not, outlaws weren't leaving selfies for you back in the day.
Yeah.
They weren't signing their name in the wall.
Yeah, but Nebraska did have outlaws. Doc Middleton, Albert Kid Wade, Jesse James gang. Wild Bill Hickok was the lawman at the time. But when people talk about outlaws at Robbers Cave, I think they miss it. It should be Starkweather.
Yeah.
Charles Starkweather lived right down the street on Pawnee. He went to Saratoga. He went to Irving. He played in that cave a lot. And I actually had a chance to meet the granddaughters of the police officer, Officer Ben Maskey. They told me he was tasked. He had the infamous task of searching Robbers Cave for Starkweather the night of the murders. How would you like that job?
Oh my gosh.
Walking through those tunnels in the dark with a flashlight.
Pitch black. Yeah.
Charlie, it's not loaded, is it? Oh man, yeah. He just lived right down the street. So a lot of the businesses around there have come back and taken tours. They're like, oh, my dad owned this little drive-in over here, and Starkweather would go in. It used to be called the Treat Drive-In. It's just not far from Robbers Cave.
Okay.
And they had a specific staff named Stretch, this really tall guy, his task was to kick Starkweather out whenever he came in because he would always put his feet up on the tables.
You got one job.
Yeah.
When this kid comes in, you kick him out.
Yeah. Yeah. He had that bright red hair and he was pigeon-toed and he's always pretty dirty. He was a garbage man. So he'd always go into the Treat Drive-In, put his feet up on the tables, and Stretch would kick him out. But he didn't live too far away either. And like I said, he went to school nearby.
Well, there's another book for you.
Yeah,
You can just keep writing books.
That was another one. Right on my library in my basement, the old school Lincoln history, folklore. You got Guide to the Ghost of Lincoln. You got Headline Starkweather. There's a handful of Starkweather books. That's another thing my aunt did. She took us to the Heritage Room, Bennett Martin Library.
I got to go there for the first time in my life.
And at some
my daughter
time,
worked there.
okay. Did you ever see Starkweather's pencil drawings? He did pencil sketches. He was
there's
actually
a lot
pretty
of cool
good.
stuff in there that I never. That was another thing.
Yeah,
I didn't know this
remember.
existed.
I remember seeing them. It was either in a book or they were the actual sketches. I don't remember exactly, but I was a little kid. He had some pencil sketches of horses and things like that. So I remember seeing those down there.
The whole room was amazing. For anybody, so the heritage room.
Yeah, I believe it's up on the 4th floor.
And there's one person who like guards it because you can't touch the books.
Stretch.
Yeah, but they're all like,
Yeah, throw you out.
yeah. I think it stretches like great niece or something like that. But it's all Nebraska history or Nebraska authors, and then there's just cool memorabilia and stuff like that. That's in there too.
Yeah, I got to put a little plug in for my daughter. She's the youngest author in the Heritage Room of Nebraska Authors downtown.
Okay.
She wrote a mystery novel when she was in 4th grade. She published it in 5th grade, and it got included in the Heritage Room. She got to go up there with Mayor Larry and do a little photo shoot and stuff. So,
Oh, that's great.
Okay.
yeah.
Was the mystery of what happened to the Nebraska Cornhuskers football team?
Yeah, right.
Ouch.
Jeez.
Okay, so what's some other crazy things like that from Robbers Cave?
Well, I could go on for days. I mean, that book is 300 pages.
What's the name
And
of the
I
book
always
for
tell
anybody who wants to check
the
it out?
book Robbers Cave: Truths, Legends, Recollections. It won a Nebraska Book Award in 2019, and it is on its 26th printing.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Where can they get it?
any bookstore, I believe, except for Novel Idea.
You
And
can
it's
get it at
also you can get it at Barnes and Noble. You can get it at the From Nebraska gift shop. You can get it at Francie and Finch. You can get it on Amazon.com, RobbersCaveBook.com.
Yep, it's real. It exists.
And you have it for
was
sale
like
there too after the tour, right? If they
Oh
wanna-
yeah, that's where I
Yeah.
get through most of them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's a little gift shop at the cave.
If you have not gone there for this tour, you have to go. It's like you said, it's just an hour, but it's
Yeah,
incredible.
45 minutes to an hour, but it feels like 20 minutes. The last thing I share with people at the end of the tour is I show them what time it is, and everybody's flabbergasted that an hour went by. Because when you're in that cave, there's no daylight or sound, and because of the sandstone, it's like a sound stage. It is so quiet, and you're focused on all the stimuli. And, I'm showing you the photos and telling you the stories and everything, and next thing you know, 55 minutes has gone by, and I'm unlocking the doors for the next tour.
Yeah, you're like, get out. Next.
Well, I need your money first.
No, that's awesome. So what's kind of the plan then now? Just keep doing this? Just like, obviously it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Something kind of cool that I like to share with people is things have gotten so busy. It's stayed busy for 9 years with virtually no advertising. I did, having a public relations background out of college. I worked for the Cavaliers. I worked for the 76ers. When I came back to Nebraska, there was something I did want to do. I got all the players. This was back in 2021. Every single player came on time by position, and we shot all the tunnel walk in Robbers Cave.
Oh, I didn't even realize that.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I remember those. Yeah, with the lanterns and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, it took all day. It was 2 4-hour photo shoots, but it went really well. It looked really cool on the big screen. Everybody's just kind of like, "What's up with the horror
Yeah.
movie theme?"
No, it was really cool.
Yeah, but it looked really
Didn't
neat.
they? I think they did stuff in a barn too for that.
The next year,
Okay.
yeah, they did the next year. They did that. Yep. But what was cool about having the whole football team down there? Cleats. I was thinking free aeration
Yeah.
with their weight and their cleats. So they smashed up the super deep impacted sand and they loosened up stuff from the bottom. And the next morning, my brother and I filled a dresser drawer with bullets.
No kidding.
Yep. I quickly learned that entire cave is full of spent rounds.
No kidding.
Yeah. It was so cool. I made
Right
it.
below the surface.
I'd say maybe like 3 inches down. I made it a point to call Sam. I'm like, you might want to get your grandson or somebody and come out here with us and poke around the cave. We're pulling all these spent rounds out. And so, he took a bunch home. Matt Hansen came, the guy that worked as the Capitol Preservation Architect. He brought He brought his metal detector. He found a bunch of bullets. My brother and I still have a whole bunch of them. There was like a treasure hunter crew in La Vista, I believe, Midwest treasure hunters. They poked around the cave for a couple hours. They took everything they found, put it in a shadow box, and one Sunday they just showed up and gave me this beautiful wood shadow box with all the things they found in Robber's Cave. And it was like coins, tea light candles, bobby pins, a bunch of old pull tabs, the old kind off of like Schlitz, Black Label.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a bunch of old pull tabs. But they put the bullets in there, and they even found a gold ring that was encrusted in a big clump of sandstone. And they included that in there too. So I have that on display at the little gift shop.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I'll have to look for that next time I'm there.
Oh, yeah. I can show you guys pictures of the bullets later too. But so the football photo shoot was pretty cool. And then in 2022, invited the Big Ten Network, and the volleyball team came out there. And you might remember their intro where they're sitting in front of those big stone walls. That's that's at Robber's Cave, right where you walk in through the big arch. And the only thing I said I didn't let the volleyball team do, they had a giant torch they wanted to light. And I was like, ladies, that's kind of a bad headline, don't you think? They're like, world record breaking volleyball team burns in Robber's Cave. Yeah. We're going to stay away from that headline.
Sure.
So just a little smoke machine and some red light, and it looks pretty cool in a cave.
Oh,
I said,
yeah,
bring
I'll
me
be
the championships. I'll make it look good. So that was it. Those are kind of the two big marketing things, that I really wanted to get done. And then other than buying rack cards for a couple of hotels and a couple of visitor centers, it's stayed busy for 9 years, and it's mostly word of mouth, social media, and I don't know if I really want to let you guys know, but where do you think bands hang out when they come to Lincoln? Don't tell anybody.
No kidding.
Spot in the back for tour buses.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
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 That's cool. All right.
Maybe off camera I could tell you some of the bands that have come by and hung out over there with
Well,
us.
we're definitely gonna have to do like a little video tour sneak peek for our TikTok and stuff.
Oh, for sure. The cave's very photogenic.
And yeah, so we'll let you do that, and you can show us all the cool stuff because I
Yeah.
think that'd be awesome. And then yeah, I'm sure everybody, like I said, you've got to go see this once. Especially, it's almost embarrassing you lived in Lincoln, and you haven't actually.
But like I
taken
said,
this, but-
if you think about it logically, you have to be a certain age to remember when it was open. Because
Yeah,
it was
no, it's-
open
yeah.
from 1908 to 1973, and then a couple years in the 80s. They had some college parties down there and such. But other than that, you had to be the type that was willing to break in. If you visited Robber's Cave after 1999, you are sneaking out in the middle of the night to get on your belly and shimmy through a 2x2 hole for almost 20 minutes.
No kidding.
All the way into the stairwell, and then you
No.
would drop to the cave.
No.
Yeah, go on YouTube. There's hour-long video of kids doing this. If you're a boy, it's like a rite of passage back in the day.
Holy smokes. I had no idea.
I didn't know that.
If you were
Yeah.
a lineman, you weren't making the cut. You were not getting in.
Or a policeman. The gun belt wouldn't even fit.
So
you're safe.
You're safe
Yeah,
in there.
that's
But
what a
they're
lot of
waiting for
people
you on
thought.
the way
But
out.
So how
they
would you
didn't
get
realize
out
there's
then?
only
There
one
was a
way in
door,
and one
obviously,
way out.
then?
One way in, one way out. So there's also a reason why LPD trained there. You could post up a rookie at the door and write MIPs all night.
Yeah. All right. Next. Next.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and
They're
they
not
were
gonna
probably
turn around.
What's that?
They can't turn around if they're
Right.
on their way. Yeah.
At that time when people were sneaking in, that emergency exit that I keep referencing, that was that big stone wall that gave it Penitentiary Cave name. So they're not going anywhere.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I have one quick question before we wrap up.
Yeah.
You seem to know a lot about the cave things in other states. How many caves are in like Nebraska? Does Lincoln have any other caves?
No, it's actually they've got one show cave in the entire state of Nebraska, and that's Robber's Cave.
Okay.
Show cave meaning there's lights, there's stairs, there's bathrooms, there's a gift shop, like an attraction. We do have wild caves in Nebraska. They're mostly along, rivers and things like that. We have Indian Cave State Park,
Indian Cave,
which is
but that's hardly a cave. I
it's a
was
beautiful
so
campground.
It
It's
is.
a beautiful
cool.
campground.
But when I was promised Indian Caves, I thought I'd be walking into Robber's Cave.
Yeah.
But it's a wall with like.
I think a lot of people share that sentiment that you just described. I get a lot of people that show up out of towners at the cave and say we just came from Indian Cave, and they're like, "Where was the cave?"
Yeah.
So, but I don't want to knock it because it's a beautiful campground.
It is a beautiful area.
And we also have Happy Jack chalk mines, but that's a mine. That's by the North Loop River in Scotia, Nebraska.
Okay.
We also have the Mayhew Cabin, aka John Brown Cave, but that's a artificial recreation of an old underground railroad tunnel, and that's in Nebraska City. And I really hope that they get their act together and stop fighting civic and citizens, back and forth, and figure out how to get that place cleaned up, because it's really neat too.
Okay.
Yeah,
I had no
That's
idea.
in Nebraska City. It's an old underground railroad tunnel. So other than that, the Robbers Cave would be the only show cave. Yep.
Got it. All right. Joe?
Before we get into the next section, I do want to ask, well, I'll mention my relationship with Robbers Cave is I'm a wedding DJ, and they do have a great venue there for hosting weddings and events.
Yes, absolutely.
which-
Big shout out to Yes Chef Catering and Dexy and Sam. They book all of the events at the cave. Did you DJ there?
Yeah, many times.
Yeah.
And they got a great outdoor ceremony site too. So if you're listening and need a place to get married.
Absolutely. There's off to the side, the building is actually an event center.
Yep.
And it's got an outdoor area, a really big room for graduation parties. Lincoln High had their prom there a few years back, but mostly wedding receptions and corporate events.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty good.
And usually when people book that space, 9 times out of 10, they're getting cave tours as well. So I do all
There, you might as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And then to shout out my buddy Tony, Christmas time he puts up the Christmas bar upstairs.
Oh, that's right.
and
yeah.
that is just so much fun.
Yes, can't forget about that. It's
You gotta
called
have a reservation for that, too.
It's
You
called
can't just walk in.
Miracle at
Miracles,
Robbers
yeah.
Cave,
Yep.
and
Yep.
this year will be its 3rd year, and they do an amazing job. Decorate for like a month straight.
Yeah, it's every Christmas movie exploded inside this room.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
cool.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It went
we
really,
go every
really
year.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It went really well the first year. They bring it back another year, last year, so it's definitely going to come back again this year.
Excellent.
So
Good.
yeah, but it's kind of like the cave tours. You got to book in advance.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure. Fills up fast.
Yeah, I think we booked it in November for like one of the first weeks. It was, so you have to, it's that far in advance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something funny about that, there's a little woody wagon that sits in the South Overflow parking lot all year. Everybody's like, what's that there for? I'm like, just wait till Christmas time.
You put it right in the front. Yeah.
All year round.
Put it right in front of the front door and stick a Christmas tree on top of it.
Yep.
It's like the old Griswold mobile.
It looks just like Clark's car. Oh man.
They work really hard on that. I'm glad it went so well and is going so well. Henry, you ever been out to Miracle?
Nope.
No? Put that on your to-do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We'll do a team
the
building
wife.
exercise.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Christmas themed beverages.
Yep.
I could see why Joe would be involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hot butter rum.
All right. Well, Joel, while you're out and about in Lincoln, besides looking up great history, what are fun things you like to do around this town?
I got a couple of daughters. One's 13, one's 16. And sometimes I take them to the cave with me. Otherwise, I'd never see them. But when I'm not giving cave tours, I try to spend as much time as I can with them. And we go to Pioneers Park, say hi to the bison. We like walking trails. We like going on bike rides. Sun Valley Lanes has some fun stuff for kids. Sunken Gardens, we visit the cemeteries. We just try to, the Capitol, you can't go wrong with the Capitol. You got to take
just
your kids
toured
to the
that this
Capitol.
week, actually, yeah.
Go up to the 14th floor, walk around the Haymarket. I used to go to the farmer's market all the time, but that's like prime time busy for cave tours. So I haven't been to the farmer's market forever, but my wife likes to take the girls to the farmer's market. Lincoln's got good farmer's markets. So, stay busy. Lincoln's got a lot of fun stuff.
Sure does, man. Yeah, you're a great spokesperson for this.
You're
city.
a wealth
This
of
is
knowledge,
awesome,
period. Yeah. No, that was awesome. Thank
Well,
you.
with most of the visitors being from other countries and other states, when we go down into the cave and people ask, Joel, what are the historically significant carvings you found since reopening the tunnels? I usually point to NWA, Metallica, and the Kool-Aid Man. But I always include the Kool-Aid Man. I'm like, that's going to be historic someday. Nebraska invented that. And a lot of people from out of town are like, really? I'm like, Nebraska's got a few cool inventions. We got, Kool-Aid, 911 service, the McRib.
I was going to say the
Reuben.
McRib.
Yeah. Vice grips, TV dinners, Arbor Day. Yeah. And then if people seem interested, you can keep going on and on. You're like Marlon Brando, Malcolm X, Fred Astaire, Henry Fonda, Nick Nolte, Warren Buffett, Gabby Union, Hillary Swank, best boxer in the world, Terrence Crawford. Yeah. And when you're in Robber's Cave, everybody gets Goonies vibes.
Oh, yeah.
I always tell people, I'm like, you want to know what made that movie extra scary to me when I was little? The villain, Mama Fratelli, born and buried, Omaha, Nebraska.
No kidding.
Can you believe that? Ann Ramsey. Yeah, I thought to myself, oh, shoot, she's a real person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
I've actually been to her. She's in an unmarked grave in North Omaha.
No kidding.
Huh.
Yep.
She was scary, but then after Throw Mama from the Train, she kind of warmed back up
Yeah.
to me. So.
Yeah. So I always throw that out there for the Goonies fans because Robber's Cave is a lot like Goonies. You go to a former restaurant, you follow a stranger to a basement, you
Oh
end
my
up in a
God.
cave,
Yeah,
looks
that's
exactly
right,
like
yeah.
it.
Just got to get
Yeah.
a little ice cream thing down there.
There you go.
He's set. Henry has no idea.
know what Goonies is, Chris.
Everything. When I was in kindergarten, I pissed my pants.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Joel. Yeah.
My pleasure. Yeah,
We may even
anytime.
want to have you on just for more Lincoln stuff.
You guys could have me on probably half a dozen times a month and I wouldn't run out of stories.
That's
Got it.
awesome.
We'll remember
this was
that.
really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
guys. Thank you. Come check out the cave.